Welcome, everyone. We'll call the meeting of the Cleveland County Board of Education for Monday, May 9th to order. Our first order is the invocation. We have Reverend Maggie Andre with Eastside Baptist Church. Reverend.
Heavenly Father, we are here today, and we are so grateful for this beautiful day that you have given us. Lord, we thank you for the gift of your Son. We thank you for the gift of freedom. It's in the name of freedom that we are here to freely discuss and to move on with an agenda that hopefully first, Lord, we want to honor you. May this group of people in front of me, Lord, that are in charge of our children and your education. Father, is my desire and our desire as people that they first honor you and then our children. Lord, we ask your wisdom on each of their lives so that they can make wise decisions and bless our children. Lord, we give you thanks and we give you praise to live in a country where we can still decide what is best for them with your guidance. And it's in the name of our precious Savior, our Jesus, that we say, amen.
Thank you. Before you're seated, we'll continue on with the Pledge of Allegiance. Next, we'd like to recognize any guests that we may have with us. Do we have any principals or assistant principals tonight? Just raise your hand. I saw a few. Thank you for being here. Any teachers' assistants or teachers? Got several. Any NCAE representatives or elected officials? I don't see any. One elected. Thank you for being here. All right, next we have some special recognition, and first I'd like to call on Ms. Shara Miller for the student art competition winners.
Thank you. It's good to be here tonight. Cleveland County Arts Council has had a wonderful relationship with Cleveland County Schools for many, many years. And one of our favorite partnerships is the student art competition that we hold every year. Past 2 years, we held the competition, but we weren't able to recognize our students publicly here for obvious reasons, but we were thankfully able to not only have the competition and have an opening reception for the students, but to be here tonight to recognize them. This year we had over 800 entries in the student competition. The judge this year was Joan Fogel, a retired National Certified Art Teacher. She selected 65 winners who were awarded over $1,200 in prizes. Among her comments, she said, "Congratulations to all the artists of the 2022 school year. Thank you, teachers, for being there for your students, for inspiring them and showing them what dedication to the arts can mean. The artwork was creative, and very well executed." We also asked Dr. Fisher to come and choose his award recipients. And some of those were also chosen by the official judge. Dr. Fisher likes you to think that he mostly cares about academics and sports, but he also has some arts knowledge too. So I think board members may have a copy of our full program at your place that shows all of the winners, and as well as on the back, the ones we're recognizing tonight. So I guess what I'm saying is that the artwork that you've seen on the monitor tonight is just a small sampling of the art that has been at the Arts Council. I want to thank not only our student artists, but also the art teachers. I know that this year has been one of the hardest ever. As most of you know, I have 2 daughters who are teachers here, and they have told me numerous times this has been the hardest year ever. And so for the art teachers to have the commitment to be able to work with their students and bring out that talent and creativity, it's just amazing. So very special thank you to the teachers. We've got certificates tonight for the students, and yes, they need to come up here and stay up here for a picture. Is that how?
Students, if you'll come up, we'll give you your certificate, and after you get your certificate, you'll stand over here, and once everybody's up here, we'll get a big group shot with the board. Does that work?
Yeah. I am going to call the teachers' names out, and if they'll just either stand up, probably need to stand up, but just raise your hand, because a lot of our art teachers are here tonight too. They don't have to come up here.
And what we'll do is, if you're okay, is after we take the student picture, then we'll ask all of our art teachers to come up and get a picture of the art. We don't want them to be here and not get the opportunity.
Well, some of them have had told, well, I know, some of them have said that they want all the recognition to be on their students, so I'll let them decide when you call them up here and do that. Maxine Bradshaw is a student at Grover Elementary, and her teacher is Mrs. Hollifield. Maxine here. Cadence Brown, West Elementary. Mrs. Hollifield is also her teacher, but I don't think she was able to be here tonight. Tanaya Coalfield, Shelby Middle School teacher, a student, and Mrs. Webb is her teacher. Briley Green, Crest Middle student, Mrs. Dugan is her teacher. Brittany Hammett, Kings Mountain High School, Miss Sanders is her teacher. Sebastian Harrington. Sebastian Harrington is Burns High School student, and Mr. Wybrell is his teacher. Riley Harvley, Washington Elementary. Ms. Green is their teacher. Lily Hoppus, Union Elementary, Ms. Shuford is the teacher. Corey Hudson, Burns High School, Mr. Wybrell. Megan Sissom, Burns High School, Mr. Pruitt is the teacher. And I might add that this piece by Megan was also chosen by our official judge as the best in show, which again shows that maybe Dr. Fisher knows a little bit more about art than he likes to let on. He chose the best in show too. Kylie Sudduth, Boiling Springs Elementary, Ms. Day is her teacher. Cadence Talent, Burns High School, Mr. Pruitt. Jessica Trejo, Cleveland Early College High School. Mr. Love was her teacher. Aria Waters, Kaiser Elementary. Ms. Schufer is the teacher. Charlie K. Buchanan and Melissa Mann at Shelby Intermediate. Mrs. Byers is their teacher. Jack Moore and Joseph Plesh Olenek, Shelby Middle. Ms. Webb is the teacher. Sophie Williams at Bethware, and Ms. Allen is the teacher. Okay, and this next group of students are from Falston Elementary. Ms. Willis is the teacher, and there's like 15 students that worked on the project together. And I think in the slide you've probably seen more like a sculpture. It's a lot of little boxes that are stacked together in a real unique way. But these students all worked on this. So Allie Price, Bryson Lambert, Micah Sisk, Hunter Scott, Caden Ray, Allison Hoyle, London Cornwell, Riley Elliott, Matthew Munoz, Anais Hamrick,
I believe she got too big of a hurry.
Jonathan Sang, sorry, they're still going on. Ms. Willis created a really big project in there. Jonathan Sang, Tiara Hauser, Annie Willis, talk about a group project. This was really one. Jaden Dawkins, Aiden Pack, Jayla McCain, and Gavin Sisk. I think we got everybody. All right. Can we give them a hand?
Yes.
It's not very difficult.
Well, I don't think. And folks, we do have several recognitions tonight. If you can stay in place till we get through all of those, then we'll take about a 2-minute recess and let folks leave that need to leave. And that way we just got one crowd at one time, if that works for everyone. Next, we have Dr. Scholl with some Performing Arts Awards.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, Dr. Fisher, as well as everyone in attendance or watching at home tonight. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come before you to recognize our secondary music and theater directors for their outstanding work with the musicians, artists, and our esteemed actors and actresses of Cleveland County. We'll begin with our music team. The following band, choral, and orchestra directors are to be recognized for their ensemble superior ratings at their respective music performance adjudications this school year. So, a music performance adjudication is a festival-style event where you take your ensemble to be rated by folks who know what they're looking for. All right, so just with that, then they either can go in with a graded performance of 1. They'll play music that's either graded 1, 2, 3 through 6 that I'm aware of. There's some advanced categories, and you can call it what you want, but ultimately you have to go in with a rated piece of music and then perform it. So, Kevin Clary, Kings Mountain Middle Concert Band, grade 2. Mandy Colson with Burns Middle 7th and 8th grade orchestra, grade 2. She actually has a concert tonight, so she will not be able to accept that. They're probably going to kick off here in about 30 minutes. Hoy Colson, Burns High Concert Band, grade 3 and 4. Hoy is Mandy's husband, so guess where he's at? That's where I would be. Julia DeSerio, Crest Middle 7th grade chorus, and the 8th grade chorus received superior ratings. Heather Bunden and Sarah Fulton of Kings Mountain High's Symphonic Chorale in the advanced category. Susan Gray, Kings Mountain Middle 7th and 8th grades mixed choir, went in with grade 3 music. And Christy Littlejohn, Crest High, the chamber choir and the combined choir both went in with grade 4 music, earning superior ratings. Hang on to your seat, folks. We're just getting started. All right, now for our individual recognitions for our students for earning the opportunity to participate in honors experience beyond the county lines. So, if you're an instrumentalist, you go try out for an all-district, an all-state. There are different levels of ensemble that you just keep going. And it's not easy to get into these, let me tell you, because all of the schools and all of the counties are vying for these positions too. All right, Cassie Adams, 8th grader at Kings Mountain Middle, all-state chorus. Olivia Allen, 8th grader at Burns Middle, the North Carolina Junior Western Regional Honors Orchestra on the viola. Bet you don't know where she's at. Alexis Blackwell, 7th grader at Kings Mountain Middle, all-state chorus. Junior Bawaki, 12th grader at Kings Mountain High, all-district honors band on the trumpet. Abby Bryant, 7th grader at Kings Mountain Middle, all-state chorus. Laziah Bird, 7th grader at Kings Mountain Middle, all-state chorus. Caleb Bunden, a 7th grader at Kings Mountain Middle, all-state chorus. Cadence Church, 8th grader at Burns Middle, North Carolina Junior Western Regional Honors Orchestra on the cello. Lillian Colson, a 6th grader at Burns Middle, North Carolina Junior Western Regional Honors Orchestra on the violin. Lucy Davis, 6th grader at Crest Middle, all-state chorus. Seabrant Eccles, a 12th grader at Kings Mountain, North Carolina Honors Chorus. Taylor Elliott, an 8th grader at Kings Mountain Middle, all-state chorus. Got a double coming at you. Emma Fortenberry, a 10th grader at Burns High, all-state chorus. Ms. Fortenberry also received an individual superior rating for a solo at the MPA. All right. AJ Fulton, 8th grader at Kings Mountain Middle, all-state chorus. Apples don't fall far from the tree. Brianna Hull, 11th grader at Burns High, all-state chorus. Kaylee James, a 6th grader, Burns Middle, North Carolina Junior Western Regional Repertory Orchestra on violin. Wynonna James, 8th grader at Crest Middle, all-state chorus. Catherine Jones, an 11th grader at Shelby High, Western Regional Honors Orchestra. And I believe their orchestra also has a concert tonight. Megan Coach, an 8th grader at Crest Middle, all-state chorus. Lillian Lutz, an 11th grader at Kings Mountain High, all-district honors band on the clarinet. Peyton Porter, a 10th grader at Burns High, all-district honors band, baritone saxophone. Barry Sax. Aram Solis, an 8th grader at Kings Mountain Middle, all-district honors band, bass clarinet. Carissa Walt, an 11th grader at Kings Mountain High, all-district honors band, also on clarinet. And Landon Wilson, an 8th grader at Kings Mountain Middle, all-state chorus. All right, let's continue with our theater awards. Directors Heather Octor, Dan Traharn, and Cole Hamrick, please join me at the podium. I believe Cole is actually manning the auditorium right now because we have things going on there. Ms. Octor, let's start with you here. The Kings Mountain Theater, under the direction of Heather Octor, earned the following awards at the North Carolina Theater Conference High School Play Festival. The Festival Spirit Award, Excellence in Character Dedication, and Excellence in Stage Combat. That sounds like fun. Well done. The Shelby High Theater, under the direction of Dan Traharn, earned the following awards at the North Carolina Theater Conference High School Play Festival. A superior rating for Much Ado About Nothing, and honorable mention distinguished play, Jerry Finnegan's Sister. Festival Spirit Award, an Excellence in Scenic Transitions for Much Ado About Nothing, and Excellence in Audience Interaction for Jerry Finnegan's Sister. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Yes. I don't know that we have, they weren't on the list tonight. Oh, that one. Okay, I don't have it. Yes.
All right, for the individuals, let's now recognize our award-winning thespians. Eric Blair, Kings Mountain High, Excellence in Acting. Rayleigh Bolt, Kings Mountain High, nominated for Best Actress for the Bloomy Awards. Jake Clinard, Shelby High, Excellence in Acting. Sebron Eccles, Kings Mountain High, nominated for Best Actor for the Bloomy Awards. Will Horde of Shelby High, nominated for Best Actor for the Bloomy Awards. Kaylin Kratzer of Shelby High, Excellence in Acting. Mickey Lasco of Kings Mountain High, a Barbizon Excellence in Design and Production in Technical Work. Arden Mooney of Shelby High, a Barbizon Excellence in Design and Production in Costume Design. Lana Meadows of Shelby High, a Barbizon Excellence in Design and Production in Costume Design. Parker Robinette of Kings Mountain High, a Barbizon Excellence in Design and Production in Scenic Construction. Megan Sparks of Shelby High, Excellence in Acting. Kate Simpson of Shelby High, nominated for Best Actress for the Bloomy Awards. Drake Spence of Shelby High, a Barbizon Excellence in Design and Production in Sound Design. Zariah Surratt of Shelby High, Excellence in Acting. Brittany Hammett of Kings Mountain High, selected as a Bloomy Awards finalist for the Student Critic Program within the Charlotte region. Further nominations and awards for the Bloomies will be decided toward the end of the month. All right, so I skipped an entire section, so we're going to come back to some more All-Staters after we recognize this team. Come on over, let's grab a quick pic. All right, Ms. Fulton, correct me if I'm wrong. All-State Chorus is what we're looking at here. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to call some names. Let me be truthful with you. Ms. Bundon sent me this list, and their certificates are going to be mailed to the school. So look for those shortly. Dr. Fisher, you can have a seat. Appreciate your help. We do have 4 here, but let's go through the whole list. We got quite a few, and I think when you talk about, I'm sorry? Yep, we'll come on up for a picture. If we don't tell you all of the kids, you won't know the full effect of what this program offers. So there's 4 here with us tonight, but here's the whole list. Jalen Clinton, Zach Davis, Jackie Eccles, Michaela Griffin, Brittany Hammett, Sarah Beth Harmon, Melisha Hawkins, Gretchen Hopper, Hayden Huss, Breanne Jenkins, Lainey Johannesburg, Michael Kidd, Mickey Lasco, Armani Melton, and Nick Moore. So as you can tell, we rely on this team to keep us all straight, and they are good at it. Come on over. Here we go. Everybody's in? All right, Ron, we'll slide you over just a bit. 1, 2, 3. Our performing arts are on fire, as you can see. You ready for me to keep moving?
Yes, you have scholarships, right?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, Dr. Fisher, it is my honor and great pleasure to introduce some bright and talented soon-to-be graduates of Cleveland County Schools and future leaders of our community. As you know, academic scholarships are difficult to get. Well, these young folks have full rides to their respective universities, well in excess of $100,000 each. Honestly, I feel underqualified to stand before you honoring these young minds. Mark Allen, Mark Petrelli, and Eli Roberts, please join me at the podium. All right, let's talk about these guys for a second. Mark Allen, Kings Mountain High, heading to Campbell University this fall with a full academic scholarship. Well done. Mark Petrelli of Kings Mountain High will be attending NC State this fall on a full academic scholarship. And Eli Roberts of Crest High also going to NC State this fall on a full academic scholarship. That's incredible, fellas. One more round of applause for them.
Well done, gentlemen.
I'm still paying. It's like it never ends. School debt is like the debt that just keeps on giving, you know? All right, at the June school board meeting following this, we will bring to you additional seniors who are receiving full ride academic scholarships. As you can see, excellence is being cultivated in Cleveland County schools. Thank you.
We also have some CTE recognition. Ms. Rhonda Benfield.
Good evening. Tonight I want to recognize 5 CTE students, all from Burns High School, who did really well in their state competition in Greensboro recently. So well, in fact, 4 of them are moving on to national competition this summer. Now, every CTE program has a student organization. It's part of the curriculum in CTE. Competition through the student organization is encouraged because students apply what they've learned in class and they gain valuable leadership and communication skills. CTE teachers are not required to have a student organization or take their students to competition, but those who do afford very wonderful opportunities to their students. And those teachers put in a great deal of extra time and energy outside of the school day, so those teachers are to be commended. So first up is our Skills USA chapter at Burns High School. The students are Mackenzie Knight and Gus Willis, and I'll ask them to come on up here. Mackenzie was first in state in the area of welding sculpture, and Gus Willis was second in the state in welding sculpture. Their works are here at the front on the bench there. And they were able to create their sculpture and take it to competition, but that's not all they did. They had to create a documentation notebook that gave pictures, details of their work, the different welds that they used. There was also an interview process they had to go through so that they could demonstrate their knowledge of welding as well. So it wasn't just an easy task. But we're very proud of them, and this was not Gus's first time placing second in the state. He did that his freshman year of high school as well. Gus is a senior. He's going on to NC State University, correct, to study agribusiness. Is that right? Okay. And Mackenzie is a junior, so we've still got her for another year. But her talents are already being recognized. She's being offered scholarships from welding programs and welding schools already. So very impressive. And I think you are going to be a professional welder, right? Okay. And with them tonight, we have their Skills USA advisor, Richard Shull, if he'll come on up, and their metals manufacturing teacher, Bruce Martin. They'll come up with them. Now, because Mackenzie finished first in the state, she will move on to national competition, and that's in late June in Atlanta, Georgia. So we're very proud of you and wish you lots of luck. If you'll just shake hands, start right there, and then come back for a picture.
Thank you. Good job.
And next up, we have our FCCLA chapter from Burns High School. FCCLA stands for Family, Community, and Career Leaders of America. We have 3 students, Ariana Burris, Mariana Lopez, and Caitlin Allen. And I think Mariana could not be here. Ladies, if you'll come on. This is Ariana and Caitlin. These are just sophomores. And their teacher and advisor is Brittany Upton. Come on down. These ladies participated as a team in the Hospitality, Recreation, and Tourism STAR event. For their competitive project, they chose to build and manage a hotel, and they had to present their plan and a case study. This is a new FCCLA chapter, new teacher, so they far exceeded our expectations of what we thought they would accomplish, and we're very proud of them. FCCLA does not do a first, second, or third place. They just, their top finishers move on to national, they become national qualifiers and move on to national competition. So these young ladies accomplished that, and they're in for a treat because they and their teacher and the principal are headed to San Diego, California this summer for their national competitions. We're very proud of you ladies.
And that's a good segue into, this is Teacher Appreciation Week. You've got to see success in a lot of different categories tonight, from the arts with band, chorus, orchestra, theater, to academics, to our CTE programs, and none of that would be possible without our teachers. So teachers, thank you. Students, thank you for what you're doing and cultivating excellence. And we'll take couple minutes and give folks a chance to step out if you'd like, or you're welcome to stay. Thank you. Okay, we'll get back at it here. I did forget to mention that we have Mr. Taylor join us by phone. Mr. Taylor, do we have you?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Don't let me forget to ask you for your vote if I slip by you. All right, next we have adoption of the agenda. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to adopt.
Is that you, Mr. Hunt? Yes. All right, motion by Mr. Fitch, second by Mr. Hunt. Any questions or discussion on the agenda? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
All right, that carries 9-0. Next is public participation, and we have two speakers. First is Robert Williams.
Well, it was nice seeing all the children and kids. A lot of them look grown up to me. A lot of them look like almost babies, but it's nice to see them out. I think we spent almost 45 minutes talking about the cream of the crop amongst our students. And I counted up the other day, I've been to probably 200 school board meetings. And I don't remember ever spending 45 seconds on the bottom half of the students, the ones that are struggling, especially the ones that were shut out due to COVID. That's not what I came here to say tonight. But I will also say that the prayer that we had, I thought that was pretty appropriate too, that we prayed for freedom. And I looked on the agenda, or the minutes from April the 11th meeting, which is the next item on the agenda. I saw so much missing from that agenda. I saw where Marge Hooper, who was forcibly, well, I don't know forcibly, but was removed from this room for being out of order, for exercising her right to speak. It's not only minutes, nothing. Also, Nanette Lenhart was almost ejected by the police. Nothing on the agenda about that either. And I think that's a very major problem with our record keeping. I could just start there, but it seemed like a recurring problem. The people that come, and I suspect what I'm saying tonight will not be on the minutes of this meeting, either. I think that's a mistake. I would recommend you folks talk to your attorney a little bit and get a little refresher on what minutes of the meetings are for. They're official records, and they're supposed to be full and accurate accounting of what happened. When you leave things like people forcibly ejected from the meeting by the police, and it's not showing up on the minutes, if that person would choose to sue Cleveland County Schools and pull out the official minutes of the meeting and see nothing on there, all she'd have to do is say, well, I've got a witness. It's Robert Williams. I was standing right here, and he was sitting right there watching it all. And I would sure testify that she was mistreated badly. Thank you.
Next speaker is Brandon Bridges.
All right. It's me again, Margaret. Y'all ever heard of Ray Stevens? If you hadn't, you better go ahead and look it up because there's a piece of you missing that you don't know. Anyways, I came to talk about a few things, and might have talked on some last time, might have not, but I did some research into the school food program, and that one Greenville County School System school food program, they did do one thing that we're not doing, and they did contribute some of their own money to that school food program. And I do understand that the school lunch program is supposed to be self-sufficient. It's supposed to make enough money to pay for itself, and that it's probably illegal or against some statute or some law or some rule that says, well, we can't give them any money. They can't take a loss. But y'all have also talked about moving the start date up 2 weeks to align better with Cleveland Community College, which is also against a rule or a policy, and there wasn't no problem against that. It's kind of like if you walked into the road to push somebody out of the way from getting hit by a bus. The police ain't going to charge you for jaywalking, are they? It's just something to think about. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the $4.9 million for the press boxes at the high schools. That's all well and good. I don't have anything to say bad against press boxes. Everything needs to be fixed. But if you take a look into it, there's a lot of people's done asked. They said, well, why can't we use that money for something else? Why can't we use that for motor mediation or the auditoriums they've been talking about for how many years? Well, the answer to that is it's written into the budget for North Carolina that says that that money is exclusively for those press boxes at the high school. I accept that to be true. And I understand that that's the only thing that that money can be used for. But my question is who said that? Who made that happen? If you go on Tim Moore's website, there's a list of things that he got worked into the North Carolina state budget, including that $4.9 million for them press boxes. And it says, you know, there's all kinds of different things for schools, for local EMS and all. That's all well and good. But somebody had to come up and say, hey, you know, this is what we want. This is what we need. He didn't just go to a psychic or take an 8-ball and just roll it and say, well, we need some press boxes for these high schools. There's a lot of things that have been on these agendas, talked about for a long time, these auditoriums, the mold in the Perns and Crest high schools. There's a lot of things that need to be remediated. And rebuilding those press boxes, whenever we have more pressing issues, in my opinion, it's kind of like going to go get a haircut when you got your leg cut off and it's being held together with a tourniquet. So that's just my opinion on things. And, you know, you just think about it and wonder how things like that go on and just say, you know, where did that information come from? You know, who brought that to Tim Moore and why wasn't other things taken care of? You know, maybe I'm out of left field with this, but, you know, I've tried to find more information about it, and it's just something that, you know, it's hard to chase down. But, you know, I'd feel like, you know, there's a lot of people here, and they ain't really now. And I was hoping more would stick around to care about it. But, you know, maybe I'm talking to a wall or talking to nobody. But I'd hope some of you was hearing what I had to say and take it to heart and try to do what's right. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next is approval of the minutes of the April 11th business and closed session. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Fitch, second by Mr. Hunt. Any discussion or questions on the minute? Those in favor, if you would raise your hand. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Any opposed? That carries 8-1. Next is approval of the minutes of the April 11th closed session. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Hunt,
Second.
second by Mr. Umphreys. Those in favor of the closed session minutes, if you'd raise your hand. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Any opposed? That carries 8-1. Next, we have our committee reports. First is the Finance and Personnel, Mr. Shores.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance and Personnel Committee met on Friday, April 29th at 10:30. Dan Karpinski provided a financial report and update. The update mainly consisted of Budget Amendment Number 3. Mr. Karpinski went over the entire budget amendment in detail. The committee asked about the additional federal funds that were received by the district, including the needs-based capital fund state grant that the district received earlier in April. Upon completion of reviewing the amendment, Mr. Karpinski expressed his appreciation of the excellent work done by all members of the finance team. The committee unanimously supported Budget Amendment Number 3 and recommends it for approval before the full board tonight. Questions were raised about the needs-based public school capital fund state grant received by Cleveland County Schools. Cleveland County Schools received an additional $7.8 million grant from the Department of Public Instruction and the General Assembly. This, combined with the original $15 million grant, gives the district a total of $22.8 million towards the auditorium projects at Burns and Crest High Schools. Dr. Fisher provided the committee with a brief ESSER update. Handouts provided to the committee are available online. Dr. Fisher reminded the committee that the ESSER 2 allocations must be spent by September 2023. Scott Alexander, the district internal auditor, updated the committee on his ongoing work and his efforts to ensure that adequate internal controls are in place to ensure that material errors, omissions do not occur. Mr. Alexander elaborated on the district's internal control structure and affirmed that the district had good internal controls in place. Mr. Answer answered a committee question about funds from PTOs and booster clubs, and he reminded the committee that those were separate entities with independent accounts separate from the Cleveland County school funds. The committee discussed the draft funding MOU as proposed by the county commissioners. Staff and committee members will review and be prepared to discuss at future committee meeting. Eric Lamanna commented that things were good in human resources and the personnel reorganization efforts in the Shelby attendance zones were also going well. Transfer efforts and contract renewals will be included in this month's board's personnel report. Dr. Fisher presented a sole source requested from Kings Mountain High School. The committee unanimously supported the sole source request, and it has been placed on the board agenda for approval. Dr. Fisher also provided a brief update on the temporary classrooms to be placed at 4 high schools as part of the HVAC upgrades. This was also discussed at the Operations Committee meeting. No other business. The meeting was adjourned. Next meeting for Finance Personnel will be May 27th at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you, Mr. Shores. We have 3 action items under Finance and Personnel. First is the Budget Amendment 3. That is coming from committee as a recommendation for approval. Any questions or discussion on the budget amendment? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. Mr. Taylor? Mr. Taylor? I think we've lost him. He had a concert, I think, at 7. So. Okay, we'll call that 8-0. Next is the sole source contract for Kings Mountain High School. That's with EduSpire. I think that's some scheduling software, and the total $7,600. Again, that is coming from committee, recommended for approval. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. And that carries 8-0. Next, we have the personnel report. You've had that in your packet. That includes substitutes, 1-year renewable contracts, 2-year renewable contracts, and our regular personnel report. I think Dr. Fisher has a few additions to that. Okay. Mr. Blanton will be recused from the personnel vote.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I've got the personnel report addendum that's placed at your spot. and I think they're going to put that on the screen for folks to see. Several items on this additional personnel report as far as administrative placements moving forward for the 22-23 school year. As you can see, I'll bring these to your attention and call these out. First of all will be the promotion of Chris Hall from principal at Washington Elementary to principal at Bowling Springs Elementary. The transfer of Titus Hopper from the principal at Shelby Intermediate School to career readiness coordinator. Virginia Lee Howell, promotion from assistant principal at Kings Mountain Intermediate School to the principal at Beth Ware Elementary School. Dr. Amy Jones, transfer from principal at Beth Ware Elementary School to the principal at Washington Elementary School. Amanda McPeters, a transfer from principal at Springmore Elementary School to a preschool center coordinator at the new Shelby Elementary School. Dr. Valerie O'Kelly, the transfer from principal at Graham Elementary to beginning teacher and human resource services director. Andrew Root, from promotion from the assistant principal at Beth Ware Elementary to the principal at North Elementary. Heather Self, a transfer from principal at Marion Elementary to the principal at Cleveland Innovation. And the promotion of Lori Wilbanks from the instructional technology facilitator at Shelby High School to the principal at Springmore Elementary. Be glad to try to answer any questions, and Mr. Chairman, members of the board, respectfully request the board's approval for this addition to the previously posted personnel report.
Any questions? Did you have a question?
Do I just need to excuse myself on the one, or are we going to do all these together?
I was planning to do them all together if that,
Well, I need to excuse myself.
okay. Unless there's any objection to taking them all together. Okay, so with this vote, we'd be covering the standard personnel report, the additions that Dr. Fisher just presented. This would also include substitutes and the 22-23 one-year renewable contracts and the 22-24 two-year renewable contracts. Did I get it? Okay. Any questions or discussion? Well, we need a motion first. What's the board's pleasure of the board?
Move to approve as presented.
Motion by Mr. Humphries, second by Mr. Hunt. Any questions or discussion on any of that? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. And that carries 7-0. Thank you. All right, thank you, Dr. Fisher. Next is educational programs, and that's Mr. Humphries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Education Program Committee met April 29th at 10:30. Dr. Ware provided an overview of the history of the Cleveland County Schools robotics programs, and Rhonda Benfield provided an overview of the CTE programs, which are both aligned with our STEM initiatives. We were honored to have Kirsten Martin from the Albemarle Corporation. She shared with the committee some info regarding their new project in Kings Mountain. Most everyone will know that is the former Foot Mineral location in Kings Mountain. The company seeks to create internship opportunities for our students. Also, there's the possibility for field trips such as open mine tours and tours of the Battery Center for our students. And a little quick side note, this is a great thing for Cleveland County. This is some real high-tech industry stuff coming to our county and some great opportunities for our students. Albemarle also has a partnership with the Gateway Trail Butterfly Garden, and they would love to get our students involved in helping with the wildlife habitat there. Mr. Gilmore gave an overview of the PALS program. Our desire is to have all of our third graders reading on grade level by 2030. Through building business partnerships, such as creating book nooks and other items, we want to help support our families with literacy materials. The committee discussed and then voted to approve the pre-K minutes and financial reports. This information will be presented to the board shortly. Heather Bridges Moore shared an update from Communities and Schools. They have sites at Shelby Middle and Burns Middle, and they also have sites at our 4 traditional high schools to provide graduation coaches to support our high school students. The program is relationship-based and focused on helping students stay in school. And they primarily target our at-risk students. Future goals they have is engaging more deeply with students and families, building relationships with more schools, and growing their capacity to serve more students and families. The contract, which will require board approval tonight, is for $169,401, of which approximately $55,000 comes from the Cleveland County Commissioners, not our school system. The committee unanimously supported the continuation of the annual contract with communities and schools, and again, that comes up shortly for us to vote for. Wendy Fitch shared an overview of the district's TSI classroom, and TSI stands for Therapeutic Support and Intervention. This classroom targets elementary students that fall into three categories: students exiting from day treatment and need a transition to their regular school, students coming through our single portal process that may need a transition intervention, and students that start at their home school and are unsuccessful after receiving intense interventions. It is intended to be a short-term placement. It's typically one semester. Dr. Hunnell presented the draft 3-year AIG plan, which is academically and instructionally gifted. He explained the district's process for updating and receiving feedback from our plan. The committee unanimously agreed on the plan and proposed updates. The plan will be presented shortly. Rhonda Benfield shared information regarding our CTE student credentials, which helps our students become employed after high school. We have, thanks to Catherine Truitt, more state funding for that. So we're looking to add credentials to provide more opportunities for our students. Tracy Gillespie explained the alternative school accountability model to the committee. This model provides schools with unique challenges to participate in a modified system. The recommendation is for our school system to select the modified accountability model, option B. The committee supports that we go with this option for both of our schools, and option B will be presented to the board shortly. And no new business, the meeting was adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Humphries. There are several action items in the educational programs section. First is the Communities and Schools contract. Again, that amount is $169,401. It does come from committee, recommended for approval. Any questions or discussion? Mr. Ryan.
Are they reaching out to all of our high schools and middle schools and working with
Dr. Fisher, can you answer that,
I'd like
please?
to have some.
That's a great question, Mr. Blanton. They have 2 sites at our middle schools, but they do have graduation coaches in all 4 of our high schools. The graduation coaches really are an important part of what we're doing from a career readiness standpoint and from high school graduation. So they do have graduation coaches in place at all of our high schools, and they have sites at 2 of our middle schools.
All 4 of the high schools and
2 of the middle schools. That's correct.
Do we feel like that we're benefiting for as much money that we are spending on that? Are we getting our money's worth? Or do we need to, does any of our people need to add anything to them to maybe help make it better? Maybe I didn't say that right.
I say, for what we're doing for high school graduation, college and career readiness, it is a team effort, and we can't expect just communities and schools to be able to carry that load alone. We need to make sure that we're doing our part, and our folks are doing their part. Now, I would say there's more to do. We've got a graduation rate that is, hovering around 88 to 90% as a district. Now, our high schools, each individual high schools are in excess of 90%, but we've got things to do. We've got career readiness in terms of job placement, internships, all those things that we need to there's some uncharted waters that we can do. So some of the personnel recommendations tonight will address some of those as well. But I think that collectively, there's still things that we can all do to make sure that our students, when they graduate Cleveland County Schools, are prepared for their post-secondary career. Whether that's, we go back to that idea of enlisted, enrolled, employed, making sure they're ready to be gainfully employed in career opportunities. They're going to further their education, whether that's a four-year college, university, or a community college. Many times that enrollment and community college go hand in hand. So I think that our team, communities and schools, whether it's success coaches and the coaches from Cleveland Community College, all really work together, and in a perfect world, that entire team surrounds students to make sure we're providing an opportunity and a portfolio of options for students.
All right. Well, you answered part of the question when you said that graduation rate. But if our graduation rate is 88 to 90, but they're not ready to graduate, but we're graduating them, that's where I was getting at. Do we need to work harder on getting those, to the secondary career?
And that's not what I said. I think that the students are ready to graduate. It's just that they need to make sure we have all the skills and are prepared to make that next step. A lot of students have those skills to graduate, but they're, for whatever reason, not making that next step. So we need to make sure we're helping to do that. And how you do that is internships, work-based learning opportunities. There's lots of endeavors that you can work through that. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, you've raised a question in my mind, and I guess since it's on my mind, I need to go ahead and ask it. You said that all of our high schools were in the 90%, so that obviously leads me to believe that Turning Point is what is dragging our numbers down. Do we have people at Turning Point, or is communities and schools involved in Turning Point?
No, sir. The community schools are not involved in Turning Point. One of the things we have at Turning Point is the IGP grant, big grant that we've got going on there. So those things are really invested at Turning Point.
Those numbers don't affect our other high schools, do they?
So when you look at graduation rate, you can see each individual high school has a graduation rate. Burns, Crest, Kings Mountain, Shelby, Turning Point. As unfair as it seems, Mr. Shores, North Shelby School has a graduation rate. And so when those students stay till they're 21, so we get counted against for all those students. And the right thing to do is keep them enrolled, keep them through the Connections program, wonderful opportunities through the community college. So I think when you look at data like graduation rate, you have to look at multiple pieces of data and really explore what's going on. We have a district graduation rate, and that tells a story, but you have also individual school graduation rates that tells a story as well. And we've got students that graduate like in our Finish program that we get counted off because they didn't graduate in 4 years. But they, whether they're 19 or 20, they come in here, they get a diploma, they graduate, and prepared to go to that next step in their life. So, what we want to do is make sure as we're getting our graduates that they're prepared for everything and that they want to do, looking at that next step in terms of enrolled, enlisted, and employed.
I just don't want our Turning Point kids to not be without services. And I think they are. I mean, I've sat on some boards in the past that obviously as you said, North Shelby's dragging those numbers into the 80s. I would assume that if we remove those two schools would be well in the 90s. So,
Dr. Ware and Mr. Gordon have some work to school plans for Turning Point students that as Mr. Hopper transitions into his new role, all those things will be some new opportunities for our Turning Point students. It's about engaging those students and being interested in the next step of their career. They're getting through high school and being successful at that, but we also need to engage them and make them interested to the next steps. And if you're not interested in that, it's easy to say, okay, well, I graduated high school, I'm going to,
And I understand it. I mean, everything starts at home. And, my guess would be some of these kids there don't have the support at home. I mean, I would just be guessing based on common sense, I guess. But you got to have help at home. We can help teach them, but you got to have help at home. But thank you for answering the question.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the communities and schools? All right, those in favor of approving the contract, if you'd raise your hand. All right, that carries 8-0. Next is Head Start documentation. That's been in your packet. That, again, comes from committee, recommended for approval. Any questions or comments on the Head Start documentation? All right, those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0. Next is the Head Start cost of living adjustment application. This is an application Head Start is doing to receive extra funds for that cost of living adjustment, and we have to approve their application. So that is coming from committee, recommended for approval. Any questions or comments? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. And that carries 8-0. Next is the AIG plan. Comes from committee, recommended for approval. Any questions or discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Blanton?
I've had a couple phone calls concerning this. Like, we have some schools that's getting 5 days worth of on the AIG, and then we got some schools that, and Dr. Fisher will probably need to answer this, and some schools is not getting but 1 or 2 days. I know that we might have more children at one school versus another school, but if a child is in the AIG, they should have the same opportunity as the other school that's getting 5 days versus a school's not getting the 2 days. We have several schools that's not getting the full 5 days on the AIG, and maybe you can explain that just a little bit better.
Would you like to address that, Dr. Fisher?
Mr. Blunt, I'm not sure the specifics you're referring to, but if all things were created equal, then it would be easy to equally distribute resources. But we do have different size schools. We have different schools with different number of AIG teachers, and we're trying to be able to equitably disperse those resources. And we do try to make sure we have a certain standard of AIG service met. Sometimes we're able to do above that because we want to make sure that we have teachers with some extra time in their day, and so we'll be able to address some additional AIG needs in with that. So there are some differences in our schools because of our schools are different sizes. Staffing's a little different. There's some different schedules. So all of that is explainable in the resources within that school because we're not all the same. Dr. Hunnell and his team are looking at trying to continue to make sure that the resources are distributed equitably. But we do have, in our community, we have some schools that are large, almost 600, and then you've got some schools that are smaller with 250 students. So to be able to do that is very different.
Well, are they a state requirement that we have to have so many kids before us to go more? A certain number in classes, or for us to do it more than 1 day or 2 days? And then some school, as said, some schools is getting it 5 days, and then some schools are not getting it but 2 days. Are we letting some children get behind where they could exceed better? What do we have to do to make all of them succeed, to get the same service, say?
I think in the setup that we have, honestly, to get the same services is impossible. We would have to make sure that we have the same size schools, the same number of AIG kids at each school, and the same resources at schools. So, we can't just say, well, we're going to have 60 AIG kids at a school.
I understand that.
Understand they have to qualify for AIG. So what we try to do is Dr. Hunnell's team try to level those resources. But when we have extra, we're going to provide additional resources and extra classes in those areas. So some schools may be doing extra in this area. Some schools may have a little extra AIG team time to address that. Some of that, Mr. Blanton, may be depending on grade level, what other opportunities they have in their school, what they've done. And I know that it even could relate to how much, if they're buying extra staff with Title I dollars, and I know typically you wouldn't you look correlate Title I with AIG, but you may have the extra Title I dollars being able to do some resources, so you're freeing up time to do those things. So all of those things are managed at the school level and with our AIG plan. There is not, to really answer your question, there is not a state requirement that for AIG you get, 2 hours a week or 5 hours a week. That is by, our AIG plan sets those standards, and schools can obviously exceed those standards, but there are some standards that we set as a district.
Okay, I'll speak to Dr. Hummel about it then, and go from there. Thank you.
Any other questions on the AIG plan?
I just want to say that some schools, they do share an AIG teacher, and it's based on the number of students that are identified as far as being eligible for the AIG program. But every student that qualifies is served by an AIG teacher. Some schools are fortunate enough to have an AIG teacher that maybe have some extra time because of who they're sharing with, and they're able to provide some, other nurturing things for students that are high functioning, but maybe didn't make the threshold to be in the AIG program. But I think our schools do an excellent job of identifying those kids who are AIG, and also those kids that are nurturing, that are not ready to go into the AIG program, at third grade. They identify those K2 students that they're ready to work with, get them ready for when they do get into those high-level classes and that extra work that they're required to do. I got to commend our AIG program. They've done an excellent job. They did an excellent job when I was there, and they continue to do an excellent job. And
I'm not saying they're not doing a good job.
And I didn't say you did. I'm just saying, I'm giving them kudos, and I'm giving them a pat on the back now because I recognize what they do, and based on the resources that they have available, they do an excellent job.
Well, it wasn't that I was putting off on the teacher. It was we having enough teachers to teach in those classes, to give those students that are the better. I wasn't cutting down any of the teachers or anything. I was cutting down that maybe we wasn't fulfilling a need for those children.
Any other questions?
At the AIG. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Those in favor of the AIG plan as presented, if you'd raise your hand. And that carries 8-0. Next is the alternative accountability model. Staff and the committee recommending approval of option B. And option B provides the general statute that those schools are evaluated by, and that applies to North Shelby and Turning Point. Again, that comes from committee as a recommendation. Any questions or discussion on the accountability model? I think we've been in option B for several years. Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. And that carries 8-0. Next, we have our Operations Committee report. The Operations Committee met on Monday, May 2nd at 9 a.m. McMillan Pasden Smith provided a thorough update of the district's facility assessment study. MPS focused on the Burns and Crest attendance zones with the facility assessment updates. In addition, MPS discussed capital improvement options with the committee in relation to the deliverables requested from the county commissioners. MPS noted the good work done by the district by the operations and maintenance department in maintaining our schools and facilities. They were very complimentary of our maintenance staff and the good work they've done over the years to keep our buildings functional. MPS also discussed several options and opportunities for district improvement as it relates to maximizing building potential and student attendance in Burns, Crest, and Kings Mountain attendance zones. Dr. Wamper presented and discussed the current capital projects report. Dr. Wamper recommended approval of the Shelby Middle and High School softball batting cage project. The lowest bid from Morrison Construction was $345,530. This project and construction is in response to a Title IX requirement, and the committee unanimously supported the recommendation. Dr. Wamper also recommended a paving project at Washington Elementary School, And let's see, I think we have a final cost on that was around $165. It's less than the $200,000 discussed in committee. Dr. Wamper provided a memo to the committee regarding mobile classroom spaces in preparation for the heating and air projects at the 4 traditional high schools. The mobile units are required due to the relocation of classrooms during the HVAC replacement. The committee unanimously approved the recommendation, and it's also on the board's agenda for a vote. The bids for air sealing repairs have been received. This is the second time this project has been bid. We only received one bid, but because it's the second time the project has been bid, we can accept the single bid. The bid was below the anticipated amount, and I've got those numbers here for reference. So for the air sealing projects at Burns High School, that's $33,000. Crest High School, $34,000. Kings Mountain High School is $23,000, and Shelby High School, $16,000. The total comes to $106,306. Those were bid as individual projects and came in under the $75,000. Fortunately, that project, we had budgeted $400,000. We're coming in at just over 100, so please keep your fingers crossed that the trend continues. David Pless brought a list of transportation items to the committee to be declared as surplus, and the committee supported that recommendation. Dr. Wamper introduced Jamie Courier as the new interim director of child nutrition. Ms. Courier updated the committee on the status of the bread bids and recommendation to include bread with the foods and supplies bid. Ms. Courier presented the 22-23 bids for milk with Pet Dairy and foods and supplies with Gordon Food Service and recommended the committee's approval, and the committee supported that recommendation. Tim Weiss updated the committee on the updates to the wireless access point system. That contract was less than $75,000 and so did not require approval, but was presented as information. And with no new business, the meeting was adjourned. The next operations committee meeting is scheduled for Friday, May 27th at 9 a.m. We have a few action items. First are the child nutrition bids. The milk bid is with Pet Dairy. That's for $453,725.01. And the foods and supplies, which will include the bread orders, is with Gordon Food Service. That's for $3,380,156.10. Again, that comes from committee as a recommendation. Any questions, or Mr. Blanton?
I don't agree with the bread. The rest I can agree with, but I don't agree with the bread.
Well, to clarify, we had issues with our previous bread supplier. We had delivery problems, and that has been moving it with Gordon Food Service. It'll be frozen bread, so we can keep that in the freezers and we won't have any waste. Did I get that right, Ms. Courier?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, not on that.
Okay. So those who, those who approve the Pet Dairy, Gordon Food Service, child nutrition bids, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0. Transportation surplus, you have a list of items from, I still want to call him Dr. Pless, from Mr. Pless, comes from committee as a recommendation. Any questions or comments on the surplus item? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0.
I can get him a doctor's degree down at Office Max.
I'm going to print one up for him.
I can get him one at Office Max for $12.
Next is the Shelby High School softball batting cage. Again, this is coming as a Title IX requirement. The low bid was Morrison Construction, and that's for $345,530. That will give us a batting cage at Shelby Middle School for the softball and baseball teams. It's comparable with the high school baseball team. Any questions or discussion? We didn't like it either, but there were 2 bids received. I think the next one up was $425. So, yeah, we don't have any choice in this with the Title IX requirement. Yeah, we'll be good.
I think that's important to know that we're forced to do that based on the Title IX, because that is a lot of money.
Yes. All right, those in favor of the contract for $345,530 to Morrison Construction for the Shelby High School softball batting cage, if you'd raise your hand.
I don't like it, but I'll do it.
Nobody does, no. Next, we have the Washington Elementary paving project.
I got a question on that.
Okay, I had a paper here. The final bids came in. The low bid is with Custom Paving for $145,785 plus $20,000 in contingencies. So the approval would be for $165,785. And that comes from committee recommended for approval. Mr. Blanton?
Yes, did we check with the state to see if, I'm still hearing that their grant, that when it goes to a lunchroom, as long as it's not staff parking, that there's still, DOT could be responsible through the state to pay for that instead of, our school system having to pay for that. Has that been double checked, and has that been checked on? Because I'm still hearing.
It'd be a reimbursement, wouldn't
Well,
well, I think that would be a reimbursement.
Well,
so we could, I mean, we're going to have to do it and pay for it and then get reimbursed if they,
but
they do
but
it.
we need to be a checking to make sure that this is going, instead of us just approving and to give money away.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Blanton, as we have discussed for several years
I know.
on this, we have reached out and applied and applied and applied, and we have never received a dime
But
in this reimbursement. So we can choose to not do it and, have huge traffic issues there, or pave it, but we have not received any of that stuff, and I don't think the school drive is what's considered in that. I may be wrong on that, but I know.
the school drive, anything leading from a state maintained road, how the general statute used to be.
Well, we have.
Anything from state maintained lunchrooms or bus parking lots, they would cover. It's not that, and they might not do it, but it was that way. I do know that for sure. And they don't want to throw general statutes at us. Let's throw the general statutes at them.
I don't disagree, and I'm fine to do that, but at the end of the day, we've requested money, we've done that in the past, and,
I don't mind fixing it and anything like that.
I think that well on the DOT end is probably dry. I don't know, but I know we've done that for years. I know when we did, I think the Falston project, several projects, we've done that, and just never been able to get any reimbursement from that, especially on redoing those things. I know that sometimes you get some on initial, but on the redo, we've never been successful in doing that.
Will this board allow me to ask the people that I know to see if we can get our money?
Let me make a suggestion, if I could, but let our attorney check into that general statute. And my opinion would be, let's do it, and let's see if we can get reimbursed based on the statute.
Yeah, I think any paving project that's recommended Washington is long overdue. And, we've made a lot of schools look a lot better and a lot safer for traffic as they move throughout the day. And I think the paving project at Washington is long overdue.
I'll agree with you 100% on that.
Any other questions on the paving project? Those in favor, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0. Next is the mobile unit lease. Again, this is related to our heating and air projects at the 4 high schools. So Burns High School will get 2 units for 2 years. Crest will have 4. Kings Mountain gets 2 quads, and Shelby gets 1 quad. The total for all of those is $1,163,972.84. Again, that comes out of ESSER funds as part of the heating and air project. That's part of that $35 million we appropriated or budgeted last year. Any questions on the mobile unit lease? These are leases, not purchases. It looks like a purchase, so I mean. All right, those in favor of the mobile unit lease, if you'd raise your hand. That carries 8-0. All right. Next is our policy committee report. Mr. Humphries.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on April the 26th at noon. Mr. Sink and Dr. Fisher led us through a review of policies 4342, which is student search, and 4334, which is the drone policy. Policy 4342, student search, we looked into that because of some recent training we had conducted by the North Carolina School Boards Association. Mr. Sink highlighted that the board's current policy 4342 is up to date and no revisions are necessary. Policy 4334, the drone policy, was originally adopted by the board in 2019. The North Carolina State School Board Association has suggested revisions to that policy due to changes in FAA guidance. So Mr. Sink and Dr. Fisher will distribute proposed revisions to the committee prior to our next meeting. A draft policy of 4318, use of wireless communication devices, was discussed by the committee. Currently, the board does not have this policy because of the similar language in other policies. After much conversation and consideration, it was decided to include this policy into the board's policy manual and to add an additional layer of communication about district expectations. The committee recommends that the footnote about encouraging parental consent be added to Section 3 of this policy, and that will be done prior to our next meeting for review also. The committee discussed the inclusion of communication staff into policy meetings, especially as it relates to the display and searchability of the policies online. Various policy hosting options were discussed, as well as the advantages and challenges of hosting the policies inside of board docs. The committee recommended to the district staff to review various options, and next steps will be discussed at the May meeting. And no new business. We were adjourned, and the next committee meeting is May the 17th at noon.
Thank you, Mr. Humphries. Next, we have our safety committee. Mr. Fitch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Safety Committee met on Wednesday, April 27th at 12 noon. The meeting was called to order. Tim Weiss provided a robust overview of the Cleveland County Schools camera system. Included in the overview was information on types of functions of our cameras, as well as the capability of the new cameras that are being installed in our schools. Mr. Weiss provided a demonstration of how the cameras and camera system works. Demonstration included how administrators can search for a specific instance, save video footage, and highlight specific areas within their school buildings. Mr. Weiss updated the committee on the number of cameras we currently have in our buildings, as well as additional cameras that have been ordered. Mr. Weiss highlighted the great work being done by our technology team, especially the staff that are responsible for the cameras. Dr. Fisher led a brief discussion on a tool called Angel Sense. Dr. Fisher highlighted the district's current protocols when parents request to use the Angel Sense product for their students. Dr. Fisher encouraged everyone to refer anyone that has questions about Angel Sense to our Executive Director of Exceptional Children, Wendy Fitch. Rodney Borders, Dr. Greg Shull, and David Pless provided staff updates. Mr. Borders reminded the committee about updated school resource officer training to be held at the end of the school year. Dr. Shull presented some gaggle reports, and Mr. Pless spoke about the camera system on our buses. Body scanners were mentioned during the new business section of the meeting. Dr. Fisher showed a brief video that showcased the scanners. Dr. Fisher and staff will be working to gather some information about cost, installation, and have it to discuss at the May meeting. With no other new business, the meeting was adjourned. The next safety meeting was scheduled for Wednesday, May the 25th, 12 noon.
Thank you, Mr. Fitch. Next, we have our superintendent's update. Dr. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It is hard to believe to stand before you here and less than 4 weeks of school in the 21-22 school year. It doesn't seem like it's that should be that time, but it is. So we're excited as we finish up this school year. A couple of things just want to make sure that are on your radar. I hope they are. First is the Senior Scholars Banquet. That is this Wednesday.
We will recognize students with over a 4.0 GPA, Cleveland County Schools. You saw all the students recognized here tonight, some of those faces. You'll see again Wednesday. It's a premier event in Cleveland County Schools where we recognize students that are exceeding and cultivating excellence in our district. So hope you're able to join us Wednesday night. Dinner will start at 6. Program starts around 7. It'll be crowded at LeGrand, so get there early and get you a good seat. All right, so your seats will be up front because you'll have the opportunity to shake a lot of hands. So may want to ice down your elbow before you get there. End of grade exams for our grades 3 through 8 will be starting the week of Monday, May 23rd. So they've got this week and another week, and then they'll be starting those EOGs, and parents need to make sure they get school communication about when their child's specific end of grade exam is. High school exams, EOC and the course exams will be the last week of school. Obviously, we're out for Memorial Day on that Monday, but then the rest of that week is high school end of grade exams. So again, lots of things going on with graduations. Make sure, I know most of you have signed up, told me where you're going for graduations, but we're looking, graduation to be around soon. I think the 20th, the graduation calendar starts with North Shelby's graduation, and early college follows that, and our traditional high schools and turning point. So a lot of exciting things here at the end of school. So that's the update. I will, I know we got mask schools. It's great to announce over the last couple weeks and months we've not had a COVID update. I did update you that we had a few cases last week of COVID, so but those number of cases are still small, so we're full steam ahead in our school activities.
Any questions for Dr. Fisher on those announcements? All right. Next, we have the school renaming, and I believe that's yours also.
We do have did put together a school name committee. You have a memo from me and that committee to you. The committee was formed to explore names for the new Shelby Elementary in order to make a recommendation to the Board of Education. The committee consisted of school staff, parents, and community members that represented the new school. The committee met and discussed potential names for the new school, but also discussed their vision for the new school. During these meetings, staff, parents, and community members emphasized the importance of building a positive school culture and creating excitement with the opening of the new school. During the meetings, the committee reached an agreement on the recommendation of using Elizabeth as the primary name for the new elementary school in the Shelby attendance zones. There were some variations to that recommendation using the word and term Elizabeth. The variations include first, Elizabeth Elementary School or Shelby Elizabeth Elementary School. But the recommendation was to use Elizabeth as that name. The naming committee appreciates the board's support and consideration of the committee's recommendation.
I make a motion we accept that.
Accept the committee's.
Which
one?
Elizabeth Elementary.
Elizabeth Elementary.
There's 2 names. Not one.
I want Elizabeth Elementary.
I'll second
I
that
make a
motion.
All right, motion by Mr. Blanton, second by Mr. Fitch. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
just to make sure everybody understands, we're held by a policy to make sure that a committee comes up with that name. Not saying that we have to go with it, but that is our school board policy about the rename of any school. Is that correct?
That is correct. And we made sure that that committee recognized that. We did talk about the policy, what that policy included, and confirmed to them they would be making a recommendation to the board for potential approval of that name. So that was a great committee. Wonderful staff members, wonderful parents, wonderful community members really participated in that. Highly engaging meetings. Lots of really good names, lots of conversation, different things. Really just some creative options. But I think at the end of the day, one of the recommendations, a couple things that stood out to me were tradition and newness. And the committee felt like with Elizabeth, it honored a lot of the tradition, but it also was a new opportunity because all of those students had never been to Elizabeth. And so you're creating some of the same traditions that we've had, and we know to be true, and really good things going on, but also had the opportunity to create this new version of an Elizabeth Elementary School. So I really appreciate the work of that committee and all the things and suggestions that were made. Really some good dialogue there.
Thank you.
Any other?
I certainly
Mr. Hunt?
accept the recommendation of the committee. I was hoping that the name Ezra Bridges was going to come up in the renaming. I had a couple of emails from some concerned people that wanted to throw that name out there, and I was hoping that the committee would bring that name back, but that didn't come back as one of the recommendations. But I just had to say that. But I thought that would have been a fitting tribute to Ezra Bridges, but maybe something down the line.
I think there may be some other ways that we can honor her in a different way. Any other comments? Okay, those in favor of the renaming of the current Shelby Intermediate to Elizabeth Elementary, if you would raise your hand. And that carries 8-0. And we're going to have to vote at least one more time on our mask in school. We need a motion to either stay like we are or to change something.
I make a motion that we stay like we are. People's choice.
Motion by Mr. Blanton,
Second.
second by Mr. Glover. Any questions or discussion? God, I hope not.
I think we beat that.
We beat it, okay. Those in favor of leaving our mask policy as is, optional, could raise your hand. That carries 8-0. Board member comments. Ms. Green, do you have anything? Mr. Blanton? Mr. Shores? No. Mr. Fitch? Well, we've got, I'll just end by saying we've got, like Dr. Fisher said, 4 weeks of school left. By the next time we meet, graduations will be over with. I want to wish our students, I hate to say wish them luck, they should know what they're doing. They should study hard and just know it. But teachers, hang in there in the last couple of weeks of school, and kids, and we're proud of what you do, and just do your best. And thank you for being here. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.